Tokyo Revengers is one of the newest anime to finish its first season. It features romance, action, and more. But is it worth watching? Well, kinda. Let me explain. But first, don't forget to subscribe. 90% of my viewers are not subscribed, and I really want to be in the triple digits by the end of the year. I would really appreciate anyone that's willing to subscribe, and I have a ton of great content planned for the future. Anyway, Tokyo Revengers is conflicting. There were some elements of this show that I thought were really well done, and some that I thought could definitely use some improvement. The first thing I want to talk about is the plot, because it's kind of both. At times, the plot feels engrossing and entertaining, but at other times it's just slow and repetitive. I found my enjoyment wavering episode to episode, which is never a good sign in a show that's only 24 episodes long. If I was talking about something like Naruto or One Piece, that would be one thing, because they have so many good episodes to make up for the ones that are, well, garbage. But with only 24 episodes, you don't really have the episode capacity to have bad episodes. And I think the root of this issue is the pacing. If we don't look at the inconsistent quality of the plot, we can see that the pacing is just so slow. Scenes that could have taken less than half an episode were stretched way longer than they needed to be, and other sections that I thought could have been expanded on felt condensed and rushed, so that the focus could be on the action or something. I definitely think pacing is a key issue for this show, but I did say the plot did a few good things as well. Tokyo Revengers is a very well-rounded anime. There's a little bit of something for everyone. There's plenty of action, there's some drama, some romance, even a little bit of sci-fi in there. Out of these subgenres, the one that I think the show does best is romance. I honestly found the scenes involving romance more compelling and interesting than the scenes involving action. And I think this is partially just because there's less of them, but I think they're more meaningful and executed better than most of the action scenes. Speaking of the action scenes, there are a lot of them, and unfortunately they're not all created equal. While they're fun towards the beginning of this show, I found them feeling repetitive towards the end. I just didn't think there was anything that was keeping the fighting interesting or fresh. Some of them were also fairly drawn out. Moments that were meant to feel suspenseful did not carry the suspense they needed, and because of that, I feel that a decent amount of the action scenes just kind of fell flat. Luckily, this is helped by the variety. I think this variety is important to the show because it helps break up an otherwise repetitive plot. Another thing that the show does really well is its theming. There are several themes that run throughout the show. Some are related to specific characters, and some exist in a bit more of an abstract space, but they're all consistent and all add to the plot. Something else that I think is done pretty well is the detailing. One of the details that I like the most is how cross-hatching is used in some characters' eyes. It's a really tiny detail, but it's something that I think helps add uniqueness to the characters that have it. Another detail that I kind of like is the shape of the hair. Not all the hair is just like typical spiky anime hair. Some of it is more rounded or square. It's not like a super important detail, but I do think it's a nice touch. Unfortunately, those are most of the positives with this show. So now we're going to talk about some of the major issues for me. Alright, the first major issue might not seem like something that big, but it's an element that I think can really make or break a show. The soundtrack. The soundtrack for Tokyo Revengers could be much better. It really leaves a lot to be desired. It feels like they had 3 to 5 tracks written for the entire show, and they just tried to insert those tracks in the most appropriate places. And a lot of the time, they either don't fit that well or just feel overused. And frankly, I don't think the songs are that good on their own either. They take elements from other popular anime such as Jujutsu Kaisen or My Hero Academia, but those elements aren't improved on in any way. If anything, they're just worse. If they'd put just a little bit more budget behind the soundtrack and created even just 2 or 3 more tracks, it could have made a huge difference in the emotional effectiveness of the show. But because they chose not to, these moments that are supposed to be extremely emotional don't feel that way. I'm not going to say the poor soundtrack ruins the show or anything like that, but a great soundtrack could have made the show so much better. Something else that really bothered me about this show was how it introduced information. Like, there are moments that are supposed to be emotional, whether it's a character getting injured or some sort of betrayal. But a lot of the time, we don't get information regarding these events until after they happen. If they'd just chosen to rework how information was introduced, this show could have actually been emotionally interesting. I also am not a huge fan of the fan service, but like, it's anime, you know? Finding anime without fan service is like trying to find a cheap apartment in New York City. It's basically impossible. Overall, Tokyo Revengers is okay. I definitely don't think it's like a must-watch or even like a want-to-watch, but if you have nothing better to do, or you already want to watch it, go ahead and give it a shot. As I said before, it's only 24 episodes, so it's not like it's a huge commitment anyway. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe, and let me know what you think about Tokyo Revengers in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next week.